Today I'm going to review the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition Complete Priest Handbook. This is the third of those brown books. And so let's look inside it. Okay, so it goes a bit into how to play a priest, and then it gets into some granted powers. So, in first edition, clerics had one granted power, the ability to turn undead, but now they have some other possibilities you might have instead of that. And some more about how to play a priest. Its role, its relations to the aristocracy. But the main reason I recommend this book is these sample priesthoods. That in 2nd edition, you weren't just a generic cleric, you could be a priest of a specific mythoi. And I got a bunch of them, like agriculture and ancestors. I'll go through all these in a second. But none of these were overpowered. They had different combat abilities, different amount of spells. They were able to use some priest spheres, but not all of them. And so I've tried in the past allowing this book for my 1st edition games. But the problem is, once you let anything from 2nd edition, people want to drag the whole thing. So I let somebody play a priest of specific mythoi using this book. And he said, well, can I take a god from Forgotten Realms? And I said, yeah, sure. But he didn't just take a god. He found online some sea god who had an overpowered kit to go with it. And it just was not so good. You let the camel's nose in, and soon you got the whole camel in. But these are not overpowered. These could fit well with 1st edition. There's ancestors, animals. You could have a priest of birth and children, one of competition, of crafts, of the bringing of culture, like Prometheus, of darkness and night, of the dawn, of death. You can be a priest of death, priest of disease, of the divinity of mankind. It mentions the druid. You can be an earth cleric, or a priest of elemental forces, or a priest of everything, a priest of evil, a priest of fate or destiny, a priest of fertility, a priest of fire, a priest of fortune and luck, a priest of good, a priest of guardianship, of healing, hunting, of justice and revenge, the life-death-birth cycle, light, lightning, literature, poetry, love. Let's go into what happens when you're a priest of love. Okay, so you got to be good. And it's allowed to a whole bunch of races. And the weapons that you are allowed is the small bow, club, lasso, man-catcher, no armor. But the spheres you're allowed, you get a lot of spheres. You have major access to all animal charm, healing, necromantic protection, summoning, and you have minor access. That is, you can cast the low-level spells of creation, divination, guardian, plant, sun, and weather. So that's a lot of spells. And you have the charm, fascination power, and the soothing word power. And turn undead. So it's a usable class. Or another example, marriage, like Hera. You say you're a priest of Hera. Okay, so The weapons you're allowed are club, lasso, mace, net, quarterstaff, warhammer, and all armor. And the spheres you're allowed is more limited. You're allowed all charm, divination, healing, protection, with minor access to combat, elemental, guardian, and sun. And your powers are to lay on hands like a paladin, soothing word, and turn undead. Okay, so that's a more combat variation, less magic using priest. There's metalwork, trickery, moon, music, dance, oceans, rivers, peace, a race like the priest of dwarves, priest of elves, etc. Redemption, rulership, kingship, seasons, strength like Hercules. You can be a priest of Hercules. The sky, weather, thunder, in case you want to be a priest of Thor. Time. Let's go to the time one again. Okay, so the weapons allowed to the priest of time are scythe and sickle. That's not such a good selection. You're allowed any non-magical armor, and the spheres you're allowed access to are all astral, divination, healing, necromantic, with minor access to plant, protection, sun, and weather. So that's a halfway between marriage and love as far as what you can get. Your powers are identification of the current time and day, regardless of how long you've been underground. At 3rd level, you can get laying on hands, and at 5th level, you can turn undead. I went to these 3 specifically because at one point in the campaign, the only ones I allowed were love, marriage, and time. And between the 3 of those, every single sphere was allowed to some sort of priest, but not all of them were allowed to any of them. Okay, so some of the others are trade, vegetation, war, wind, wisdom, and that's it. So that's a good selection of kinds of priests you can be. And so with this book, you can make a pretty good variation of priests of specific mythoi. And they have some priest kits, which I never used any of those in play. There's the Amazon priestess, the barbarian berserker priestess, the fighting monk. So yeah, the monks were removed from 2nd edition, and yet here they are back, only it's not as good as the 1st edition monk, especially not as good as the Oriental Adventures monk. The Nolan priest, the outlaw priest, the pacifist priest. You could be a pacifist priest. That would be good for the priestess of love. Prophet priest, savage priest, and scholar priest. And it goes into more about kits and priest personalities. There's more role-playing information. But the main reason I recommend this book is because it delineates those priests of specific mythoi. And so that makes this a must-have book if you're going to play 2nd edition, because you want to allow the players to play priests of specific mythoi in addition to clerics and druids.